Hello, this is Jamie Magritte. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this cute little penguin box. It's actually a box. It's a good size. It's 1 inch wide. It's tucked back in here. Or deep. It's 3 inches by 7 inches. So let's get started. Let me show you what you're going to need. I'm going to start with the consumables. You're going to need an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of black paper. You're going to need some scraps, a scrap of white and a scrap of Daffodil Delight that's big enough to punch out a 1.5 inch circle. You're going to need a piece of 2 by 5.25 inch piece of Whisper White and a 1.5 inch square of Daffodil Delight. And then to stamp whatever decoration you want on, a scrap of Whisper White for that. For the decoration, I used Poinsettia Petals. I have two options. I'll show you both of them. So you're either going to use this stamp here or this stamp here. These two. Okay. There's a bunch of punches. We have a 2.25 inch circle punch, 1.5 inch circle punch. These two are retired, but there's a 1/2 inch circle punch. And then I'm just using the little, I don't know if you can even see it, turn it over, the actual little circle punch, so any standard hole punch would work for that. And then I'm just, for ease, I'm using this punch for the corner rounder. You'll need a dimensional for attaching the beak and for attaching the element to the hat. And then for the hat, you're just going to be using some children's socks, some small children's socks. Piece of ribbon or twine and a pair of snips. Okay, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do, let's just punch this and get this out of the way. This is the 2 by 5.25 inch piece. We're going to bring in our circle punch, and on the top 2 corners we are going to punch the corner. Okay. And then we can place that aside. Okay, on our scrap paper, this one we're going to punch out a 1.25 or excuse me 1.5 inch circle, and then we're going to take our snips and cut it in half. Okay, we're going to take our 1.5 inch square. Cut it in half diagonally. We're only going to need 1/2 of that. And then we're going to round off the corners on the top 2 corners. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I like a little fatter round like that. Okay. Might as well bring this in. I'm going to bring in that hole punch, and we're going to punch 2 we need 2 of those little circles. Okay. Put that aside. And thinking about it, I don't think I used the two. Oh, I did use it. I forgot what I used it for. I will get to that in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to bring in our 8.5 by 11 inch piece. Move this aside. And on the 11, we're going to put it so that it's on the 11-inch side, and we're going to score it at 1 inch, at 2 inches, at 9 inches, and 10 inches. It's going to give us two 1-inch pieces on either end. And we're going to turn it to the 8.5 inch side. We're going to score it at 3 inches. At 4 inches. At 7 inches. And 8 inches. Okay, let's get this out of the way here. Alright, now these 4 little pieces are going to come off completely. I'm not sure if you can see them right here on both sides, so bring in our snips. Let's cut those off, and I like to cut so I'm cutting off the score line completely. Okay, so I'm going to cut those off. And then I like to miter this one just a little tiny bit. See? A little tiny bit I'm mitering off. So I'm going to miter that at the same time. Cut these off. Okay. So those are trash. Alright, now this square on either side needs to come off. So let's go ahead and take those off. And again, I like to cut the score line completely off. Just makes things fit better. And if you want, you can cut all the way down to this score line when you're cutting it off, because that's going to make the tab. We need to cut that anyway. And then cut that score line right completely out. Like that. Okay, so then I'm going to come over here and cut this score line out. Find it is a neater fit. We don't have that. Okay. And this one's going to stay. I'm going to cut up here. Again, we're going to cut up here inside the score lines. This little tab here, this top one, needs to come off. Oops, I did it kind of messy. Let's see if I can straighten that out. we go, and then cut those score lines out. Oops, this one is okay. Now this, we're going to cut both of these tabs off. These long rectangles there, they both need to come off. On both ends, we're going to cut both of those off. Okay, cut this one off. Cut this one off. This little tab here comes off. Cut that score line out. And then we're gonna, on one end, it doesn't matter which end, we're gonna cut this extra tab off. Oh, maybe we're not. Leave it on for now. We'll cut it off in a minute. So let's bring in a bone folder. Works better. And burnish these score lines. Yeah, we need that tab, I forgot. I'll put aside these pieces. So right now it's going to look like this. I am going to miter these just slightly, not very much at all. Just a tiniest little snippet. That just helps when you go to close it to get them in on both ends. Okay, so now we have that. Okay, now I'm going to fold over this little flap here. I'm going to bring in my glue. You can use whatever adhesive you want. This would probably be a good project for the new Stampin' Seal Plus. And we're going to fold this right over onto the top of that. And burnish it down. And use your bone folder. That's fine. Okay. That's the box. So now we're going to take these two little end pieces, put them inside, tuck this in. Okay, it helps if I can get it in. Camera, so of course I can't get it in. There we go. We gotta do the same on the other end. There we go. Now we want to have that be the back of the box, so we'll turn it over on the table. It doesn't matter which side is up and which side is down. Now this piece that we cut off, We're going to come in with our 2 1/4 inch circle punch, and we're going to put it in until you can see that score line, and we're going to pull it back. We're going to punch. We're going to do that twice. Okay, this is garbage. These are going to become our wings. So then we're going to take just like a 1/4 of an inch, a little bit, fold it back. Make sure they're opposite. Doesn't really matter which end you do. Okay, that's how we're going to glue it to the side of the box. So we'll put those aside for a minute. We're going to take one of these other scraps, and we're going to come in with this 1/2 inch circle punch. I could probably use these. I need 2 of them. So out of that 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper, that's our only scrap. Let's get all these little bits out of the way. Oh, there's one more there. So there's 2 little squares in that. Okay, now let's come in with these pieces. All our little pieces we already punched. I'm going to come in with that 2 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white. I'm going to add glue to the back of it. We're going to center it side to side, but this edge is going to go to the bottom of the box. That's going to be the white part of the penguin. Our square that we cut in half and cut the rounds, that's going to be the beak. So we're going to bring in some dimensionals. Put a couple dimensionals on the back of it. Probably could get away with 1, but I'm just more comfortable adding more. Don't forget that tip. Squish your fingernail into it. It pops up that edge. It makes it easy to grab. Figure out where you want your beak to be. About there, I think. Okay, and we're going to take these 2 little black pieces that we just punched out. We're going to put them above the beak, wherever you want them for your eyes. Kind of like them kind of wonky. Just makes them a little cuter. Then I'm going to use that little hole punch. Put some centers on. Okay, these pieces are going to become his feet. They're going to go like this. And they're just about perfect to go across the bottom of the box. They might overlap just a tiny bit in the middle, or you can have them hang off the edge a little bit if you'd rather. So we'll glue those down here at the bottom for his feet. Okay, now for his wings, we're going to put it so that the fold looks like that. We're going to glue 1 on each side. The flat part will be towards the front of the box. And it's going to go about parallel with where we put the beak. Maybe a tiny bit below it. Just lining it up with the front of the box and pushing it down. Oops, I got glue on my finger, it's sticking to me. There's the penguin. Now we can add his hat. Basically all I did is I took the little sock, and I pulled it on over his head with the heel on one side. If you want to stick something in the toe so that it has dimension, that would work too. And then I came in with, I just used some jute, but you could use, on this one I'm going to go ahead and use some of the seam binding. I'm just going to cut myself a little piece. And down at this toe, just tying it in. First I'm going to tie it in a knot. I'll go ahead and tie a bow on it. Poof this out however you want it. And that's the hat. And then we can decorate it. Now, originally, I had taken the poinsettia from the Poinsettia Petals and colored it with my blends. Put one dimensional on the back, and that can go right here on the hat. The alternative, on this one, I took the holly leaves and I stamped them in black. Then I stamped the shadow in Pear Pizzazz. I cut two of them out, and then I added one of those gold faceted gems. So there's a couple different options how you can decorate it however you want, but it makes a usable, openable box, perfect for any gift giving. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.